Hi, welcome to our channel where we share the most intriguing stories. When I left the fire department, all I wanted was peace, a backyard, and a busted pool to fix with my own hands. What I got instead? A clipboard-wielding HOA tyrant, a viral arrest, and a courtroom showdown that would shake an entire neighborhood to its core. Buying this house was the first decision I made entirely for myself after leaving the fire department. No more bureaucracy. No more barking supervisors, just a man, a modest piece of land, and a busted-ass swimming pool that smelled like algae and old beer. But to me, it was perfect. I wanted a place where nobody would tell me what color to paint my fence, or whether my truck was a visual disruption to the harmony of the street. So I looked far outside downtown Austin until I found it, half an acre with a 1980s ranch-style home, tall pecan trees, and a backyard deep enough to fire a cannon without hitting a neighbor's shed. Most importantly, no HOA, not even in sight. The pool was a joke when I bought the place. Cracked plaster, mold-stained tiles, pump long since dead. But that was the point. I rebuilt it from scratch with my own hands. 6 months of digging, framing, pouring, sealing, wiring, lighting. I didn't want a resort. I wanted a space that felt like mine, so I built it the way I saw fit. Put in stone coping, custom underwater lights, a sun shelf, and a grilling station under a cedar pergola. I even hung string lights from the trees for evening swims. My brother helped me install a steel-reinforced cedar fence around the yard, 7 feet tall and solid as hell. I was proud of what I made. Every inch of it was sweat equity. The first time I met Karen Livingston, she showed up at my door with a clipboard, a tight smile, and a pamphlet titled Welcome to the Neighborhood, Community Harmony Guidelines. I was still covered in dust from hauling gravel. She introduced herself as the president of the Silver Hills HOA from 3 houses up the road. I said, "Sorry, ma'am, this house isn't part of Silver Hills. The parcel is outside your boundary." County confirmed it. She blinked like she'd just seen a dog recite the Constitution. "Nevertheless," she said, "we consider all adjacent homes part of our visual ecosystem, and we encourage voluntary compliance." I leaned against the doorframe. Voluntary compliance sounds like something from a dystopian sex cult. She didn't laugh, just handed me the pamphlet and said, "We'll be watching." Over the following months, Karen made it her personal mission to pretend I was under her jurisdiction. I caught her photographing my truck. She left notes on my gate saying my patio furniture was a visual disruption. Once, she tried to tell one of my guests that outdoor music after 8 p.m. violated neighborhood etiquette. He laughed so hard he dropped a rib. I ignored her. I wasn't breaking any laws, and the county clerk had confirmed in writing twice that my property had never and would never be part of Silver Hills HOA. Still, Karen didn't let up. She'd patrol past my house during my Sunday BBQs like a shark casing a fat swimmer. If I waved, she looked away. If I didn't, she stared long and hard, like she could set my deck on fire with the sheer force of passive aggression. None of it stopped me. I kept hosting my friends and family. The backyard came alive every weekend. Laughter, music, kids shrieking in the pool, the scent of brisket in the air. My brother Mike brought his twin boys nearly every Sunday. We called it Uncle Chris's Country Club, and the name stuck. I knew Karen was seething. I could feel it in how she walked slower by my fence, how her emails to concerned community members became more frequent. Yes, someone forwarded me one. How she glared when the UPS guy brought a new smoker to my porch. But I still didn't expect her to cross the line the way she eventually did. It was a Saturday, mid-June, the kind of Texas day where the sky looks like someone turned the saturation all the way up and the air smells like sunblock and mesquite smoke. I'd planned the afternoon for weeks. Nothing fancy, just family, friends, and good food. My brother Mike brought his boys and a cooler full of Lone Star. The Harrisons from down the block showed up with potato salad and enough pool noodles to choke a shark. We had maybe 15 people in total, mostly folks who knew me well enough not to ask if I had HOA permission to have a damn party on my own land. The pool was in full swing, kids cannonballing off the ledge, adults gathered near the grill under the pergola. I was flipping ribs, joking with Mike about how his kids were treating my pool like a wave park when I noticed something strange out of the corner of my eye. The gate on the north side of the fence was swinging slightly. I always closed it tight, out of habit more than anything. But someone must have nudged it just enough to keep it from latching. Before I could react, there she was, Karen Livingston, in full battle mode. Wide-brimmed visor, linen blouse, clipboard in hand like it was a sword of righteousness. She marched straight into the yard like she'd been invited to inspect the damn place. Conversation stopped. Music still played, but lower, as if even the Bluetooth speaker knew something stupid was about to happen. "Everyone needs to vacate immediately," she barked, arms flailing. "This pool is part of Silver Hill's shared recreational amenities and is not authorized for unsupervised use." I blinked, then laughed. "Karen," I said loud enough for everyone to hear, "you've lost your damn mind. This is my pool, my yard. You're trespassing." She didn't flinch. She pointed to the pool like it had committed a crime. "This design, this entire setup, violates the visual continuity of our neighborhood. There are children present. You don't have certified lifeguards. This constitutes a public safety risk." I nearly dropped my tongs. "You think I need a lifeguard for a private family cookout? I've contacted HOA security. They're on their way to remove unauthorized individuals," she snapped. I stared at her, trying to process what flavor of lunacy this was. HOA security. I wasn't in the damn HOA. Neither were any of my guests. And the only shared recreational amenity on my property was a garden hose I sometimes let the kids play with. "Karen, seriously," I said, stepping toward her. "This isn't your turf. You have zero jurisdiction here. Take your clipboard and your delusions and get off my land." She stood her ground, arms crossed, smug smile growing like mold. That's when she tried to grab one of the phones. A teenager, Harrison's daughter, was filming her, laughing nervously, and Karen lunged forward to swat the phone out of her hand. It didn't connect, but it was close enough to make the girl jump back and scream. That was it for me. I walked inside, called the police, and told them a woman had entered my private property, was harassing minors, making physical threats, and refusing to leave when asked. By the time I stepped back outside, Karen was pacing in circles near the pool, shouting into her own phone. "I'm telling you, they're defying community codes. I want them out. Evacuate the area now." Mike raised an eyebrow. "She just say evacuate? What, she thinks she's FEMA. Karen spun toward him. "You're endangering children. I'll have CPS here within the hour." One of my neighbors muttered, "This lady's unhinged." The kids had been pulled out of the water by their parents, unsure of what to do. The whole party had turned tense. No one was eating. No one was laughing. And Karen strutted through my yard like she was auditing a crime scene. 10 minutes passed like molasses, and then we heard the sirens. Red and blue lights reflected off the side of my house. 2 patrol cars pulled up to the curb. I looked at Karen. She smiled like she'd won the lottery. But, oh, Karen, you called the wrong bluff. The officers pulled up fast and clean. No sirens, just lights, like they knew it wasn't a meth bust but still wanted to clear the scene before things went nuclear. 2 of them stepped out. Officer Gomez, younger guy, mid-30s maybe, sunglasses still on, and Sergeant Lewis, stockier, with that calm, seen-it-all expression older cops wear when they expect nonsense. I walked up first, hands visible, friendly tone. "Good afternoon, officers. I'm the one who called. Name's Chris Harding. This is my house. That woman over there," I gestured toward Karen, still pacing near the deep end like a patrolling goose, "entered through an unlocked gate without permission, has been yelling at my guests, tried to swat a phone out of a teenager's hand, and refuses." To leave Lewis gave me a nod, then turned toward Karen. "Ma'am, could you come over here, please?" Karen turned, smile still tight, but brittle now, like cracked porcelain. "Yes. Officers, thank God you're here. This man is operating an unlicensed pool party with no permits. I am the HOA president of Silver Hills, and I'm ordering a full evacuation of the premises." Gomez tilted his head. "Ma'am, is this your property?" Karen's nostrils flared. "I represent the neighborhood. He may be adjacent to our boundaries, but that doesn't mean he's exempt from common sense oversight. This pool violates multiple visual codes and—" Lewis interrupted, polite but firm. "Ma'am, just to be clear, do you have a deed or any ownership claim to this parcel?" Karen blinked. "Excuse me," Lewis repeated the question. "No, but I—" "Then you're currently on someone else's private property without their consent." Karen's face twisted, but she was still riding her self-righteous high. "You don't understand. This affects the aesthetic integrity of our neighborhood. I have authority here." Gomez raised an eyebrow. "You don't." She snapped toward him like a rattlesnake. "Excuse me." Lewis opened his notepad. Ma'am, I'm going to ask you once to leave this property voluntarily. If you refuse, you may be subject to criminal trespass charges." It was like a fuse lit behind her eyes. Karen took a step back, squared her shoulders, and shouted, "You're on his payroll, aren't you? This is corruption. You're enabling community sabotage." And then she lunged. Not at me, not at Gomez, at Sergeant Lewis. She grabbed his forearm, nails digging in, and shoved him backward. Well, tried to. He didn't budge more than an inch, but that didn't matter. It was enough. Gomez moved fast, stepping between them, hand reaching for his cuffs. "Ma'am, stop resisting!" Karen shrieked and tried to claw at his face. Her nails scratched his cheek. Cameras came up from every corner of the yard. The Harrises, the neighbor's teenager, even my brother had his phone out now, capturing every deranged second. Lewis locked her arms behind her back, twisting gently but firmly as Karen thrashed and screamed. "You're going to regret this. I am this community." Click, cuffs. She was down. They read her Miranda rights right there on the stone pavers by my pool, over the smell of grilled meat and chlorine. Karen was red-faced, panting, mascara already streaking down her cheeks, even though I'm pretty sure she hadn't been crying. She looked rabid. She kept screaming as they walked her to the car. "I'll have your badges. This is a HOA matter. This is my pool." Before the cruiser door closed, she managed one last howl toward the crowd. "He doesn't even have a lifeguard. This is a death trap." And then the door shut, and the backyard fell silent for a moment, like the world had hit pause. No one spoke. No one laughed. We were all still catching up to what we'd just witnessed. Finally, my brother said, "So, does this mean I can get back in the pool?" That broke the tension. Someone snorted. A few chuckles. The kids started easing back toward the water, but I was still watching the cop car, taillights glowing as it drove off, Karen Livingston inside, cuffed and furious. And I knew damn well this wasn't over. Karen didn't go quietly after the cruiser left. She screamed the whole way down the street, at least until the car was out of earshot. I stood there for a while, hands on hips, looking at the tire marks left in the gravel by the squad car. My guests were starting to ease back into the party mood, but I could feel the atmosphere had changed. We'd just witnessed a woman lose her damn mind and physically attack two cops over a backyard barbecue. It wasn't the kind of thing you just laugh off over potato salad. I figured maybe that was the end of it. Maybe she'd cool off in a cell overnight, realize she'd crossed the line, and then stay away from me for good. But if I'd known how deep her narcissism ran, I might have guessed what was coming next. By Sunday morning, Karen had bailed herself out. Word was she used a high-end defense lawyer named Douglas Pierce, slick as oil and just as slippery. You've probably seen the type on late-night cable ads. Wrongfully accused. Call Doug Pierce, the people's pit bull. Except this time, the pit bull wasn't fighting for the people. He was fighting for a woman who still thought she owned the people. That afternoon, I got an email from my neighbor Greg, subject line, "Have you seen this?" Attached was a Facebook post from the Silver Hills HOA official page titled Community Alert, Unlawful Pool Activities and Misinformation. The body read like a manifesto from a cult leader. "It has come to our attention that Mr. Christopher Harding, a resident adjacent to Silver Hills, has repeatedly defied the spirit of community regulations and endangered public safety with unsupervised recreational events. Attempts to bring these violations to light were met with hostility and police overreach. The HOA is currently evaluating all legal options to protect the peace and well-being of our residents." I read it twice, then 3 more times. I couldn't believe the spin. Karen had been the one arrested, on camera no less, and now the HOA was trying to turn her into some kind of freedom fighter. It didn't stop there. A few hours later, clips of the incident began popping up all over local Facebook groups, Reddit threads, and even TikTok. Someone had added circus music over the footage of Karen attacking the cops. Another user titled their upload, "Karen Goes Nuclear Over Pool Party," with a freeze frame of her clawing at Officer Gomez like a cat on acid. By the end of the day, #PoolKaren was trending in the greater Austin metro area. People were DMing me screenshots, tagging me in threads, asking if I was the guy with the HOA-hating psycho neighbor. I hadn't even posted anything myself yet, but the internet had already picked a side. And, spoiler alert, it wasn't hers. Meanwhile, I started getting strange messages. A local podcast host emailed me asking if I wanted to share my truth. A HOA watchdog group offered to send me an analyst to go through property lines and jurisdiction maps. Someone claiming to be a former Silver Hills resident messaged, "She's been like this for years." You're not the first. That's when I decided to stop playing defense. Monday morning, I drove down to the county clerk's office and pulled every legal document I had on my property: deed, parcel map, zoning information, and most importantly, a certified letter from 2 years ago confirming my land was never under HOA jurisdiction. Then I called an attorney I knew, Elena Trujillo, sharp as razors and twice as fast. I laid everything on her desk and said, "I want to sue her. And I want to do it." Loud Elena didn't blink. "We'll start with criminal trespass, defamation, and civil harassment, maybe even intentional infliction of emotional distress. And if her HOA co-signed that public statement, we can name them too." I left her office feeling like I'd just lit the first fuse on a controlled demolition, but what came next would prove this wasn't just about a crazy woman and her clipboard. This went deeper, a whole lot deeper. Elena didn't waste time. Within 24 hours of taking the case, she'd already filed a civil complaint against Karen Livingston personally and the Silver Hills HOA corporately. Trespassing, defamation, harassment. She also requested an emergency protective order to keep Karen the hell away from my property, which, honestly, felt more like psychological safety than physical. Even after everything, I still half expected to see her creepy silhouette outside my fence some night, clutching a clipboard like a crucifix. But the real bomb went off when Elena got her hands on the HOA's financial records. We didn't go through official channels. That would have taken weeks. No, this came from a disgruntled ex-board member named Alan, who'd resigned 6 months earlier after, quote, "Karen told me I couldn't plant sunflowers because they were too proletarian." The guy hated her guts and had kept backup copies of everything, including scanned budget documents, vendor contracts, and HOA meeting minutes that had mysteriously vanished from the public website. Elena and I sat in her office late one night, going through the PDFs on her screen. What we found made both of us go dead quiet. Line items for security oversight for pool maintenance, $2,100 a month. Payments to a company called Northland Compliance Group LLC, $38,000 over the past year. Expense reimbursement to K. Livingston, $12,800, labeled Community Consultation Travel Expenses. I leaned in. "What the hell is a compliance group?" Elena smirked. "Best guess? Shell company. Probably something she or a relative registered." Sure enough, 10 minutes of digging showed that Northland Compliance Group's business address was a P.O. box inside a UPS store, and the registered agent was a man named Harvey Livingston, her ex-husband. Elena exhaled slowly through her nose, like she was watching a slow-motion train crash. We kept going. Monthly beautification charges that didn't line up with any physical improvements. Emergency HOA vehicle repairs for a non-existent fleet. Digital security monitoring billed to an HOA fund that supposedly didn't cover internet services. It was embezzlement, plain and simple. But the kicker? Multiple reports made by the HOA to the county, claiming that my parcel, my legally recorded non-HOA property, was under pending annexation. Karen had filed those statements personally. They weren't just wrong, they were fraudulent. "This isn't just a Karen on a power trip," Elena said, eyes fixed on the screen. "This is criminal. We need to take this to the DA." By the end of the week, we'd submitted a formal packet to the Travis County District Attorney's Office. Elena also sent everything to a contact at the State Attorney General's Public Integrity Unit. Meanwhile, the HOA's press releases kept coming, doubling down. One actually accused me of weaponizing social media to destabilize neighborhood cohesion. I didn't even need to respond. The internet was doing it for me. Someone on Reddit had compiled all the video clips, merged them into a single cut titled Karen Versus the Law, Pool Party Showdown, and added slow motion replay when she scratched the cop's face. It hit 200,000 views in 2 days. But not everyone was laughing. Two of Karen's neighbors, real residents of Silver Hills, anonymously reached out to Elena. Both said she had bullied them with fake fines. One had paid over $3,000 in alleged yard maintenance violations, though they'd kept immaculate landscaping. Another claimed Karen showed up at their door once and demanded a $500 noise compliance fee for a birthday party that had ended at 9 p.m. These people were scared. They'd been afraid to speak up, afraid of legal threats, fake violations, reputational damage, and now, seeing her implode in real time, they were ready to talk. Elena started compiling a witness list. Meanwhile, the police quietly opened a parallel investigation, not just into the pool incident, but into financial crimes. I didn't know what was more surreal, that my backyard barbecue had triggered a chain reaction that might take down an entire HOA, or that Karen still hadn't shut up. Through her lawyer, she'd filed a counterclaim against me for emotional distress and reputational sabotage. I laughed when I read it. Then I printed it out, laminated it, and used it as a beer coaster. The courtroom smelled like lemon cleaner and anxiety. It wasn't packed, but it wasn't empty either. A few reporters from local outlets were there, tapping on laptops. One guy from the HOA Watchdog Substack. A handful of Silver Hills residents scattered among the pews, looking both curious and embarrassed to be seen. The bailiff kept sipping from a neon green thermos that didn't match his serious face. I sat at the plaintiff's table next to Elena, who was already halfway through highlighting the opening statement she'd memorized 3 days ago. Across from us sat Karen, face like cracked marble, flanked by her high-priced attorney, Douglas Pitbull Pierce. He was dressed like a cable news anchor and had the demeanor of someone who thinks laws are just complicated suggestions. Karen wore beige, like she was auditioning for the role of misunderstood matriarch. She didn't look at me once. Good. I didn't need her smug energy fogging up my oxygen. The judge was a no-nonsense woman in her 50s, Judge Aguilar, the kind who looked like she'd once thrown a book at a guy just to see if he'd flinch. She got straight to it. This is a combined hearing regarding multiple civil and criminal complaints involving Ms. Karen Livingston and the Silver Hills Homeowners Association. The court recognizes pending charges in both domains and will permit limited crossover evidence under 49.3a. Let's proceed. Elena went first. She started by establishing the obvious. I own the property. I had video proof that Karen entered without permission, that she escalated verbally and physically, that she assaulted 2 officers in front of a dozen witnesses, and then she dropped the bombshell, the financial misconduct. She introduced exhibits, HOA budgets, the Northland compliance shell, check stubs signed by Karen, forged jurisdictional documents claiming my parcel was pending annexation. Every few minutes, Karen's lawyer would object. Every time, the judge either overruled or told him to sit down and stop flailing. Then came the witness list. First up was Officer Gomez. Calm, professional, detailed. He testified to everything he saw, including the scratches on his face, which were still faintly visible under his cheekbone. Then Sergeant Lewis, even more damning. She stated, quote, "I have authority here," before physically grabbing my arm and attempting to shove me. Then came the neighbors, the Harrisons. The teenage girl whose phone Karen tried to slap from her hands. Greg, the one who forwarded me the HOA's Facebook post. And then the surprise, Alan, the ex-HOA board member. He took the stand and dropped a nuke the size of a Texas oil rig. He testified under oath that Karen had frequently manipulated board votes by forging signatures, issued fake citations to pressure homeowners into paying fines, and even once suggested annexing the 3 adjacent properties, including mine, by claiming community interest control. Elena let the silence sit heavy after that. Then, with a click of the remote, she played the full, unedited pool incident video. The courtroom sat in stunned quiet as the footage showed Karen yelling, flailing, and finally scratching Officer Gomez while screaming about lifeguards and conspiracies. When it ended, Judge Aguilar asked a simple question. "Miss Livingston, do you dispute the authenticity of this video?" Pierce rose. "Your Honor, we object to the emotional framing." Aguilar cut him off. "I asked a yes or no question." Karen stood up herself, and then she unraveled. "I was protecting the neighborhood," she shouted. "They made me look like a lunatic. He was holding illegal gatherings. Children were at risk. I tried to maintain order." The judge's eyebrows rose. "So the video is accurate? I was the only one doing something." The silence that followed was surgical. Judge Aguilar leaned forward. "Let the record reflect that the defendant confirms the contents of the video." Karen sat down hard, eyes wild, breathing heavy. From that point, there wasn't much else to argue. The defense rested early. They had no witnesses, no counter-evidence, just a stack of excuses and a woman melting into her own delusions. Outside, the courthouse steeps were buzzing with reporters, microphones, cameras, questions. Elena gave a calm, brief statement. We're confident in the truth and in the facts as presented. This is about accountability and boundaries, both physical and legal. I didn't speak. I just walked down the steps and let the air hit my lungs. For the first time in months, it felt clean. But we weren't done yet. The sentencing phase was next. And judging by the look on Judge Aguilar's face as she banged the gavel that day, I had a feeling the system was about to hit Karen harder than anything I ever could. Sentencing day arrived with the kind of thick, heavy air you get before a thunderstorm. The courthouse parking lot was lined with news vans. Their satellite dishes pointed skyward like aluminum sunflowers. Inside, the mood was electric. No jury this time, just the judge, the attorneys, and a growing list of people eager to see if justice still meant something in Travis County. Karen entered the courtroom, flanked by her lawyer and 2 sheriff's deputies. Her posture was stiffer now, as if the weight of reality had finally started pressing down on her shoulders. Gone was the beige church lady suit. Now she wore something darker with a high collar and a sad attempt at humility. She didn't look at me. Honestly, I don't think she looked at anything. Just straight ahead. Like if she blinked, the whole thing would vanish. Judge Aguilar took the bench without small talk. She adjusted her glasses, cleared her throat, and began. This court finds Ms. Karen Livingston guilty on multiple counts, including assaulting a peace officer, criminal trespass, intentional infliction of emotional distress, and felony embezzlement of HOA funds. You could have heard a pin drop. In reviewing the evidence and witness testimony, it is the court's opinion that Ms. Livingston not only abused her position of community leadership, but weaponized it against individuals who had no legal or social obligation to her association. Her behavior was not a lapse in judgment. It was a sustained campaign of coercion, fraud, and aggression. Pierce shifted in his seat. Karen blinked rapidly, but otherwise didn't move. The judge continued, voice steady. On the matter of embezzlement, the court recognizes a pattern of deliberate misappropriation of HOA funds for personal use, including, but not limited to, fictitious vendors, unauthorized travel reimbursements, and manipulation of official documents. Then came the sentence. Ms. Livingston is hereby sentenced to 12 years in state prison with eligibility for parole after 7. She is remanded into custody immediately. Gasps filled the courtroom. I heard someone whisper, 12 years? Like they couldn't believe it. But I could. I watched the video. I read the forged paperwork. I saw the fear in my neighbor's eyes when they testified. Karen's face collapsed. No outburst this time. No screams. Just a twitch in the corner of her mouth, like a short-circuiting machine finally giving out. As the bailiffs moved to take her into custody, she turned. Not to me, not to her lawyer, but to the audience. Just a quick glance, scanning the room, as if someone might stand up and say, wait, she's the victim here. But no one did. They cuffed her again. This time, there was no fight. Outside the courthouse, the media was already rolling. Elena spoke to the cameras calmly, laying out the timeline, the evidence, the legal precedents. She said we were considering additional suits against the HOA's remaining board members for their complicity. The real kicker came 2 days later when the Travis County Property Commission announced that the Silver Hills HOA would be formally dissolved. Under Texas law, when an HOA's leadership is convicted of felony fraud involving association funds, the organization can be forcibly liquidated. Their remaining assets, accounts, community lots, equipment, were frozen pending audit. Residents of Silver Hills received official notice. The Silver Hills Homeowners Association has been disbanded by court order. Any existing enforcement or collections activities are null and void. My inbox lit up. Formerly silent neighbors now sent thank you messages. Some apologized for not speaking up sooner. Others just said, "You did what we couldn't." But for me, the real moment didn't come in the courtroom or in the headlines. It came a week later when I got a letter from the Travis County District Attorney's Office, a formal apology, signed and sealed, acknowledging the failure of previous complaints about HOA overreach and thanking me for bringing the situation to light. Elena framed it and hung it next to the deed in my home office. I didn't go looking for war, but I wasn't about to surrender my peace because someone else worshipped control. Especially not when that someone thought a damn swimming pool was enough to start a coup. Karen thought she owned the neighborhood. Turned out she didn't even own herself. A year later, the fence still stood tall, the string lights still flickered at dusk, and the pool, my pool, looked better than ever. The only thing that had changed was the tone of the laughter that echoed across the yard on weekends. It was lighter now, freer. Like the whole place had exhaled after holding its breath too long. We were having another cookout. Same cast of characters as always. My brother Mike, his boys, the Harrisons, a few of the Silver Hills folks who now finally admitted how much they hated the HOA. One of them, Greg, had brought a cooler of local craft beers with a label that read, Community Overlords Lager. He thought he was hilarious. To be fair, he kind of was. The kids splashed in the shallow end, shouting over each other about who could do the best cannonball. The adults lounged by the grill, arguing about whether brisket should be smoked with mesquite or oak. It was the kind of day I'd built this place for. And the best part? No HOA to threaten it. No Karen to haunt it. She was currently residing in a state prison just outside Houston. Last I'd heard, she'd filed 3 appeals, none of which went anywhere. Her lawyer, the so-called Pitbull, had quietly moved on to real estate law in another county. Silver Hills HOA was dead, its assets seized, its sign at the front of the subdivision taken down and replaced with a city notice. Community management pending voluntary reorganization, which in plain English meant you're on your own now, folks. And from what I'd seen, they were better for it. At some point that day, Greg wandered over with a framed item wrapped in paper. I had this made, he said, handing it to me. Figured it belonged here. I unwrapped it slowly. Inside was a blown-up copy of the newspaper headline that had gone viral months earlier. HOA president arrested after brawl with police over private pool. Beneath it, in bold font, someone had added a line in cursive, the pool that put Karen in. Prison, I laughed, genuinely. It was stupid and petty and kind of beautiful. We hung it right there, under the cedar pergola next to the grill. Later, as the sun dipped low and the lights buzzed to life above us, I sat with Mike on the edge of the pool, beer in hand, feet in the water. The kids were winding down, the music softer now. Somewhere behind us, someone was slicing cake. Mike looked at me and raised a brow. You ever think, he said, that building this pool would lead to all that? I shook my head. I just wanted a place to swim. He smirked. Well, you got that. And you brought down a regime. We both laughed, but under the laugh, there was something else. That quiet kind of pride that doesn't need to shout. Just sits there beside you, cold beer in hand, and watches the lights shimmer on the water. I looked around. Friends, family, freedom. They tried to control my land, to fence me in with fake authority and hollow rules. They tried to hijack the quiet life I built, but all they ended up doing was drowning in their own arrogance. And I just kept swimming.